You, man.
Hey, Greg, why don't you go piss your pants again?
That was like 8 years ago, asshole.
People don't forget.
People do not forget indeed, and the best group of bunch of jerks is at it again, trolling the Montreal Canadiens. But we're here to talk about the history of NHL offer sheets. Where does this come from? With a little bit of help from the humorous Carolina Hurricanes general manager Don Waddell, as well as the stuffy, stiff, ever-present Montreal Canadiens fan base. So without further ado, join us on this adventure of restricted free agency and offer sheets so you understand what it means and why this is such a big deal, as well as hilarious. And let's teach you a little bit of something about the NHL since 2005. Welcome to the worst sports channel on YouTube, Hot Garbage Sports, with me, Coach Ryan D. Subscribe, like, sign up, join our channel for the best in NHL content, as well as upcoming NFL content. The NHL offer sheet has been a tool in the general manager's toolbox for a very long time, long before the infamous 2005 collective bargaining agreement. The 2005 collective bargaining agreement was a monumentous time in the NHL because it introduced us to the salary cap era. And within the salary cap era, one of the most important things that needed to happen for league parity was small teams or teams with not really good tax brackets. What's up, Montreal and Toronto? Well, Winnipeg, Calgary, Vancouver, Edmonton? All of us? Every single Canadian team, definitely didn't forget any, have really bad tax brackets. So the salary cap was introduced in order to help parity amongst the league, because anybody that you draft in the NHL is your property for a minimum of 7 years, or until their 27th birthday, whichever comes first. And we talk about this because we cannot talk about offer sheets without talking about the collective bargaining agreement. Ugh, I know, just skate us already. Boring. But this is super funny. We can't talk about offer sheets and the hilarity of the bunch of jerks trolling the Montreal Canadiens without talking about restricted free agency and the history of why these things exist in today's NHL. Let's put it this way. If you were a union bargaining for your members and a player in the NHL, would you want to be locked into one team with no market constraints influencing you for the first 7 years of your career? You may not even make it to that point in time before you're injured. So you definitely need a mechanism in there to allow you to get paid. And remember, collective bargaining agreements for all you non-labor relation nerds out there and, well, Americans, because I know you have unions, but like you don't. The right to work. The right to work yourself out of a job. Oh, labor law is so important. And we don't say that facetiously, but it feels less important when we're talking about millionaires as opposed to working blue collar stiffs and white collar stiffs like myself who are just trying to feed the family and pay the bills. But let's get back to the millionaires and billionaires. The billionaires wanted to retain their talent. The millionaires wanted to cash in on their talent. So a collective bargaining agreement outlays a list of how you do things, when you can do things, and what you can't do. If something isn't in the collective bargaining agreement, then the owners own it. It's that simple. So within the collective bargaining agreement, they insured to put themselves in a clause called restricted free agency. After your 3-year entry-level contract deal before your 27th birthday or your 7 years expire in the NHL, a team can tender a qualifying offer to a restricted free agent. If the restricted free agent accepts that qualifying offer, they are not eligible for an offer sheet. If they do not accept a qualifying offer, they are eligible for an offer sheet, and an offer sheet is an offer from a competing NHL general manager and team for that player's services. If that player signs that sheet, the team who holds the player's rights initially has a time period to match that offer. If they refuse to match that offer, they are awarded compensation in the form of compensatory picks. Let's take a look at what those picks are right now. As you can see above, the $6.1 million offer sheet from Carolina over to Montreal for Jesperi Kotkaniemi falls into the place where it would be 1 first-round pick and 1 third-round pick if the Montreal Canadiens allowed KK to walk. But before we get into KK and the Canes, we got more history of offer sheets to talk about. So since 2005, there have been 7 rounds of the NHL draft. When Dustin Byfuglien was drafted, there was a lot more than that. So that is 7 rounds times 30 or 31 players over the course of 16 years. That is thousands of players. Thousands of players that have been given the opportunity to be offer sheeted. And in a capitalistic society, because capitalism always works exactly as it's intended, we're all over it today. I love capitalism. It is the best system in the world. It's broken, it's flawed, it's ugly, but it works. It rewards individual effort most of the time. Back to millionaires and billionaires. Too deep for us. The capitalistic system within the NHL free market states that if a general manager needs a player of that talent, that they should strategically use an offer sheet to pry that player away from another team. So we have thousands of players that have gone through the system, a really attractive offer for scooping up talent and making sure players not only get paid like gangbusters and making sure that talent is spread around and protected evenly. How many offer sheets have we had in the NHL through these thousands of players? Dun, 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 dun. 10. That's it. 10. Why? Because sometimes capitalism fails and market conditions fail. In this essence, what ends up failing is the motivation for general managers, which is a big part of capitalism and free markets, motivation to sign these players to offer sheets. General managers have a life expectancy of 3 to 10 years in the NHL. If you're getting close to 10 years, your job is probably on the line if you haven't won a few Stanley Cups. And even so, your job still may be on the line. It's a general manager's job to do the impossible. Appease the owner, appease the fans, keep the players happy, and win a Stanley Cup all at the same time. It is not an attractive place to be, but thank goodness they get paid for it. Anyways, when a general manager needs to operate in the NHL in the 3 to 10 year window that they have, they need to make friends. And the most important friends they can make in the NHL aren't their own players or even their owner. It's the other general managers. And when you get into another general manager's sandbox and try to pull players away from him for a short-term gain, you are likely to never do business with that general manager again. Collusion! Well, yes and no. Yes, in the sense that we all do it. We build relationships, we protect those relationships. No, in the sense that it's not meant to work that way, but it does. Welcome to Western society. So, because general managers are afraid to piss in the other person's cornflakes, to say the least, these offer sheets are very rarely used. Let's go ahead and take a look at the history of these offer sheets. Starting with Ryan Kessler in 2006, matched. Thomas Vanek, matched. Dustin Penner, the Edmonton Oilers. Oh, the Edmonton Oilers overpay for Dustin Penner. The Anaheim Ducks, Anaheim Mighty Ducks of Anaheim. What were they at the time? Who cares? The Anaheim Ducks end up making away like gangbusters, and Brian Burke gets paid a lot of draft picks. After winning a Stanley Cup, Dustin Penner gets paid, ships off to Edmonton, and Edmonton, of course, wins the Stanley Cup and becomes a dominating force after 4 first-round draft picks. No, no, they didn't. What up, Chris Pronger? Oh, if you didn't know, Chris Pronger ended up hooking up with a reporter. His wife got mad, shipped him over to Anaheim. He won a cup there. Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. I love Edmonton. Back to Dustin Penner. What did Brian Burke end up doing with the compensatory draft picks? Well, let's take a quick look at it, shall we? Absolutely nothing. You nailed that one, Burke. You got 1 cup. You built it in Anaheim, and you've basically been riding it to glory and pay ever since. Never won it since then. Terrible. Incestuous NHL, repeating, always having the same people in the front office, and teams wonder, hey, why isn't this working? It's literally the definition of insanity. After the Dustin Penner debacle, we had David Backes, Steve Bernier, Nicholas Hjalmarsson, and then the infamous Paul Holmgren of the Philadelphia Flyers signing Shea Weber to a $14 million signing Shea Weber to a $110 million 14-year term, and Dave Poile had to match this albatross of a contract. But thank goodness that Dave Poile is a smart general manager, one of the best to never win a Stanley Cup. He ends up keeping Weber through his prime, flipping him over to Montreal for the infamous PK Subban. Nice work there, Bergevin. Take on another albatross to go on with Carey Price. Oh, there's never any shortage of Bergevin jokes. He's actually a pretty good GM, though. Anywho, PK Subban ends up going back to the Nashville Predators. It's a younger version of Shea Weber. The twilight years of Shea Weber are spent in Montreal, where he makes it to a Stanley Cup final. PK Subban does PK Subban things like he always does. I really like PK Subban, but I also really like the Hurricanes. I don't know what that says about me as a person. Kind of a jerk, I guess. Oh well, I like a good entertainment value with my sports. It's really what I'm paying for. PK Subban somehow ends up in New Jersey, collecting dust, ESPN analyst, and frankly, the Nashville Predators came out of that looking pretty fantastic. Montreal, if they won the cup, they would have too, but they didn't, and now we're facing a career-ending injury for Weber. Moving on, Ryan O'Reilly matched Sebastian Aho. Wow, this deal, 6 years, $42 million, matched by the Carolina Hurricanes. And then the infamous Carolina Hurricanes, right now we're in the middle of it, Jesperi Kotkaniemi. And you have to love what the Canes are doing with this. Don Waddell is the biggest troll in NHL history. Not only are the bunch of jerks hilarious with after celebrations, they are ruthless on social media, and immediately upon signing KK to that offer sheet, they tweet out in French, nonetheless, Les Hurricanes on announce aujourd'hui. I'm not even going to try. I don't read French very well, but I can translate this. The Carolina Hurricanes proudly announce that they have signed restricted free agent Jesperi Kotkaniemi of the Montreal Canadiens. And the contract that was signed runs an average value of $6.1 million. Doesn't exactly translate to that. I could put it through translator, but close enough. You live in Canada, you pick up the teensiest bit of French. So there you go. We tried, Montreal fans. And in case you're wondering why that's so funny or where it ended up coming from, you'll all remember this one. The Montreal Canadiens ended up tweeting out, Sebastian Aho accepted our offer. He wants to come to Montreal. He sees youngsters coming up in the organization and he wants to be part of that. We're proud, but there's still a waiting period. Rebuttal? Jesperi Kotkaniemi accepted our offer. He wants to come to Carolina. He sees the core we've built here and he wants to be part of that. And then he talks about them being in a vulnerable position. Hilarious. And Marc Bergevin did this because we know he's coming to the end of his tenure last year. He's going to play out the end of this year, and then my guess is he walks. Sorry, Habs fans, but he's likely going to walk. Immediately as well, this wasn't the end of the bunch of jerks. The Carolina Hurricanes tweeted out just a giant lol. Lol. Hilarious. They followed that up with an Uno switch card. I mean, this is just getting better by the tweet. And then even posted on their own website a big wow. And that brings new meaning to the term people don't forget, because they have beaten this dead horse right into the ground the way a good old internet troll is supposed to be. And people are going to be out there talking about the fact, people from Montreal more specifically, nope, that's not fair. They have fans across the world. Habs fans from across the world, yep. Yeah, we're going to settle there. More specifically, have been tweeting that they find this kind of an embarrassment. People have been really polarized by the Carolina Hurricanes. You either love them or you hate them. And if you hate them, you grew up in that old school say nothing hockey mentality. Frankly, as a guy that's been in the dressing room with a bunch of guys trying to be cool that don't really end up talking, hockey is one of the best personalities and some of the funniest people in the world, and they never say anything, not boo. Everybody is trained to zip their mouth, not say anything offensive, not say anything fun, have zero entertainment value, go forward, hide it in the shadows. There's a lot of dark sides to hockey too. So I love the light that the Carolina Hurricanes bring to this and the light-hearted humor. So if you think that this is an embarrassment and you happen to be a fan of the Habs, I hate to say it, team, but trolling you back, your first round draft pick, that was kind of an embarrassment. Like, oh, whew. Logan. So this has been a history of NHL offer sheets. You've learned about the collective bargaining agreement. You've learned about restricted free agency. You've learned about who signed an offer sheet. And now you understand why general managers don't typically sign these offer sheets. You have the general managers like Bergevin or Holmgren who are cowboys and out there at the end of their tenure signing these big ones. And then you got the best trolls like Don Waddell, just really following it up and probably currying more favors from his friends who are other general managers than not. So it probably made him more popular, if anything. Kind of like Bill Clinton in the Oval Office. Sometimes all it takes is a good person to be bad, and the world supports you. This has been Coach Ryan D with Hot Garbage Sports. Stay tuned, subscribe for more amazing NHL content and upcoming NFL content. Thanks for being here.